Hello and welcome to the tiny village of Trouse, just on the very edge of Norwich. Through the trees over there is the City Hall, and I am on the Boudica Way, which actually starts right up at the train station about a mile or so behind me, but there's been so much traffic I haven't bothered filming any pieces to camera because of all the noise. So the Boudica Way is a 35-mile long trail, so it starts here in the city of Norwich and ends in the little town of Dis. And it is named so because the queen of the Iceni Tribe that lived in this area, which is an Iron Age tribe, was called Boudica. And she actually rebelled against the Roman Empire and sent an army south to destroy the city of Colchester. So far I've passed the impressive boom towers, which are two ruined towers of the old city wall just by the River Yare, and I'm going to be passing some lovely historic features later on today's walk. I think I'm going to do about 8 miles or so, 9 miles today, taking the Roman town Caistor St Edmund and also the site of a henge. So I've just entered the parish of Arminghall, and a very interesting monument, and you can't really see much of it, but this slightly raised platform here on my left is actually Arminghall Henge, and this is a particularly interesting monument because it dates to either the Neolithic to Bronze Age period. They actually managed to carbon date some of the charcoal, I think, from inside one of the ditches, and it said between 4,000 and 5,000 years old, which makes it one of the oldest monuments in the county. And during excavations they actually found the post holes from large oaks that kind of went around this ring. Actually, if I come up here I can see the ring. Can you see this very slight mound here as it goes down just in the direction of that pylon, and you can see it curving round here? I never actually expected to be able to see the earthworks. This is really quite amazing. And as I was saying, it's had a bit of a nickname as like a wood henge because it had these massive oak posts all the way round, and likely used for some kind of ceremonial or burial kind of practices back in the Neolithic or Bronze Age. So the Boudica Way actually circumnavigates around this massive sand quarry. I think it's sand anyway, it looks like that's what they're extracting. But I've got a wonderful view across to County Hall. I can see the spire on top of Norwich Cathedral, and I can see the Roman Catholic Cathedral as well. So I've just joined a little country lane now, and the last few miles have been absolutely fantastic walking. Wide open paths alongside of meadows and just so many insects about, loads and loads of flowers out. It's just been fantastic, and some of the views have been really good as well, even as far back into Norwich. I think I'm about 4.5, nearly 5 miles in, and I'm actually going to do a little out and back section which is still part of the Boudica Way and actually goes to the old Roman town of Caistor St Edmund. It's called Venta Icenorum, or Venta Icenorum, I think it's Icenorum, and that there's still remains of the Roman town that was there. So I'm going to go and explore that first and then retrace my steps back along the path. So I've finally arrived at Venta Icenorum, which is the ancient Roman town and capital of East Anglia, which is just about 5 miles or so south of Norwich, which is over that way. Now this town actually was built in the first half of the 2nd century, so between 100 and 150 AD. But what's really important is that this is probably the location that the Iceni Tribe lived as well before the Romans invaded. And I say Iceni because I've always said Iceni, but according to the information board, it's Iceni, and that's how it's pronounced. So the story goes that when the Roman Empire invaded, the husband of Queen Boudica actually created an alliance with them so they could live here peacefully. But then upon his death, the alliance actually broke down, and Boudica eventually revolted against the Roman Empire, and in 61 AD sent an army of people south, burning towns and villages as they go. And the most famous one that they burnt was Colchester at the time, and it was completely razed to the ground. And according to the information boards here, they went as far as London before being defeated. And then, say around the first half of the 2nd century, the Romans built their enormous town here. And the information board actually says that up to 2,000 people lived in this town at one point, and there was a huge vicus, which is a civilian settlement that grew up around it, actually in these fields and all the fields to the east. There's actually a Saxon settlement up there and cemetery as well, which I'm going to pass later. I'm going to take a little different route back. But what's really impressive about this place is that when it is very dry, you can actually see all the Roman roads that crisscross the town, and there are extensive walls and earthworks all the way around in a big square shape, and randomly a medieval church just in one corner. As I mentioned earlier, there's actually a Saxon cemetery, and it is just underneath these trees here. And they were excavated in the 1930s, and over 700 urns were actually discovered, all containing sort of cremated remains. And this is all now designated as a scheduled ancient monument. So we're almost in the village of Upper Stoke, and from there's actually a fairly regular bus service that takes you back into Norwich, so that's the perfect way to go and find some overnight accommodation. Now if that bus isn't running, you can also walk about a mile or so into Porringland, which is over to the east, and again there's a regular bus service back into Norwich for an overnight stay.